and so we make less mistakes. We don't have as many accidents. But as I started to mention, there are problems with light at night. So it sends your body mixed signals, because your body knows, well, it's nighttime. However, you're not sleeping. You're up doing your schoolwork, or you're writing a paper, or you're watching television, or you're entertaining, and you might be actually doing a lot of work at night, which requires you to be awake and alert at a time when your body wants you to sleep. So the confusion to your body actually will start to suppress some of the hormones in your body. So melatonin, some of you might be familiar with melatonin tablets that are often touted as a solution for jet lag to help you sleep. If melatonin is suppressed by lighting at night, then your body clock will become off. So these lower levels of melatonin, because of using night lighting, will be very disruptive. There are also some indications that there may be some medical problems beyond just merely sleep disturbance. And these include obesity, heart problems, and even some cancer. More research is needed, so I'm really interested in this topic. We've started to do some research with shift workers in our state of Oklahoma in the U.S. And we're interested to know how much light, what's the threshold of how much light can humans withstand, for what time periods, and how does it affect them physically, so that we can understand about things like electronic devices at night. Some of the current recommendations are not to use electronic devices such as a tablet or an iPhone within a couple hours of going to sleep. However, many of us, that's the last thing we might do at night is look at our phone. We're especially concerned about young people and adolescents or older adults because their systems are either growing or they're more fragile. And people who are in institutions that might have a lot of light at all hours of the night. Or people that work in those sorts of institutions. So in the U.S., a very growing market is for care of older adults. We have continuing care retirement centers. Of course, we have hospitals. We have prisons. So these places have shift workers around the clock. So we're concerned about what workers are exposed to in terms of light and how it might be harming them. And so there are some beginnings of recommendations which include using more warm lights as it starts to become evening, not to use more of a blue-white light, and also to use dimmer lights, or if you need to get up during the night, to have a night light that's a warm-colored light. And then another issue that I want to tie in today is light pollution. So basically, light pollution is light where we don't want it or we don't need it. And light pollution starts to send some signals. If we see some lighting in an area, we think that there's some activity happening there. So if light is just stray light or extra light or wasted light, it becomes light pollution. So many of us are familiar with water pollution or air pollution, but light pollution is now being recognized also as a problem. So we have here on this other fact sheet some of the mechanisms which start to filter light or shield light. So in the U.S., a big problem is that a lot of people believe that light is positive and darkness is negative. So they have decided that for safety and security, they need to light up all their property. So we have a lot of wattage being used, a lot of power, a lot of electricity being used, in just directing light everywhere, even where it's not needed. So this brochure goes to talk about a little bit about that, and the idea that maybe the light's not disturbing you if you have lights on to illuminate your property, but it might disturb your neighbor. Just some images. So in more urban areas, we tend to have more light pollution. Again, many people believe that they have more light, they won't have crime. Actually, there's been some studies that show that in some cases, light actually attracts crime. Because if your property is dark at night when you're sleeping or when the business is closed, sometimes criminals can't really find your property or identify it. So we're struggling with this problem. So ways to reduce light pollution include things like curfews. having lights turn off at a certain time, so maybe retailers would consider not leaving their store lighting on or window lighting or signage on until late in the morning when most people are sleeping, but to have these lights turn off, and also to shield the lights so that they do not bother others. And a benefit of reducing light pollution is saving on energy and saving on costs, so something that retailers would probably be very interested in. But light pollution in some respects can be very beautiful. I'm showing you some images from the sky, some satellite images from earlier, and we can actually see the outline of India or US or other countries. But if we can see that in a satellite photograph, it means most of that lighting is directed upwards, not really helping to perform a visual task. And then we tie in also with shift work. So this idea that people are working on a schedule so that a business, for example, can operate 24 hours a day. We all believe that that's necessary in the case of a place like a hospital. Retail is also starting to expand hours. So in the US as well as in India, many businesses are open later at night. And sometimes during holiday season, some of the businesses are starting to open 24 hours a day. So in order to be open, people have to cover those shifts, right? So we have this kind of multiple issue that we have the workers, we have the shoppers, and then we also have people who can shop online, who are shopping at all hours of the night. And then just some definitions of shift work. But people that have shift work, retailers that have shift workers, it's not a negative thing. For them, they're trying to increase their business. They're trying to cater to customers who might also be working late or have limited time to shop. So we can see that there's a challenge from different angles. And just some terms. So as humans have evolved, we've gone from a regular condition of sleeping at night, being awake in very bright days, to sort of another land of some lights being left on at night for one reason or the other. And then some people work in windowless offices and aren't out in the daylight hardly at all. So these are some of the things that we think are contributing to harmful health situations. And indeed, the American Medical Association came out a few years ago calling attention to light at night and light pollution as being potentially carcinogenic. Again, just some more information from the flyers, from the fact sheets that start to illustrate for lay people some of these concepts. In 2007, the International Agency for Research on Cancer concluded that shift work is possibly carcinogenic. And this is, again, based in large part on the growing shift work population. A little bit more about some of the hormones that are affected. I've told some of you that I currently have a project under construction that I'm very curious to get back to in several days. That is meant for a control room that's operated 24/7. So it's meant for a space that is manned continuously. Some of the workers work 10 and 12-hour shifts. They're rapidly rotating shifts, so they might work a few days in a row, then be off. And we're dealing with some of these very problems of fatigue on the job, sleepiness on the job, sleepiness driving home, how to stay alert, because the processes in this particular control room are quite important. And if a worker were to fall asleep, there would be a large problem with all of the processes that they control. And it deals with pipelines and the processing of oil. There we go. So savvy merchandisers have long understood the significant power of electric light. So we've heard from some of our wonderful speakers already about this. Humans are attracted to light, so we are phototropic, and our body clocks are quite responsive to the natural cycles of day and night. So some of you that have traveled from Italy and other places to get here, or some of you are traveling today, I understand, back to Italy. So we understand about jet lag and about being exposed to different time zones, but the shift work piece is relatively new for retail. So again, with the dawn of electric lighting, humans' nighttime exposure has generally increased, especially true with those that have access to electronic devices and those who are in urban areas that have access to retail stores. Appropriate modern electric lighting design can entice customers and can promote merchandise at all hours. So this is an example of a store that's being open even late to the night. So shopping hours are increasing. So lighting designers and retailers must address these emerging issues related to the effects of electric light exposure during evening hours, which is called light at night. Nighttime shopping opportunities may include brick and mortar shopping, but also online. So again, the idea that we can shop all the time. And so how are we going to address this issue from a retailer standpoint, from a merchandise standpoint? We want the retailers to have the business, we want consumers to have access, but we don't want people to be harmed. So these are some of the issues that need to be addressed. So there's a rich potential for research. Brick and mortar shopping, as we heard this morning, draws customers into store interiors where retail workers assist them under an array of bright lights. So very often stores that are competing with their neighbors will want to increase higher and higher their light levels for contrast, to attract the eye, to attract the customer, and as a result we are dumping more and more electricity into the illuminated environment, some of which is seeping out into neighborhoods, for example, through advertising, through parking lot lighting, etc. As physical stores are open later, night shift workers are increasingly required. And they, again, are laboring under this electric light while others potentially sleep. Another problem we find with shift workers, and this will be true with retail soon, is that they become somewhat estranged from people around them because they're not able to engage in a lot of activities that people are awake at the other hours are. So there's many issues related to shift work, and we expect that they will probably increase in our 24/7 world. So here's some examples of light pollution, outdoor signage. So you may have lighting of a parking lot that's right next to a residence, and maybe you have had this experience when you travel or even in your own home, where light is seeping in through your window. You might have to drape the window, cover the window somehow because that light is keeping you awake. So again, circadian rhythm and influence of health. Proper lighting and store operations should consider these emerging issues. So not only are we talking about the lighting design itself, the foot candle or lux levels, the timing of the light, we're also talking about how often and for how long will let workers work in a retail and other environment. So that gets into store operations, that gets into working with store managers to talk about discussions of health. How long will people be engaged in shift work? Many get disgruntled and get unhappy as they work in shift work, and so some of the people who work shift work try to get out of that very quickly. So they are leaving their jobs. There's a lot of turnover with shift work.